And then just some housekeeping for the event. We do have a panel that is available for Q&A. Within the WebEx event space, there is a chat window as well as a Q&A window. If you could ask any questions in the Q&A window, it gives us the ability to thread the responses so we can more efficiently get back to y'all. So again, if any questions come up during our technical presentations, please use the Q&A and we will do the best to get back to you with a great response. And with that out of the way, again, thank you all for joining us on this July edition of Mastering Cisco Networking. This is a really awesome session was kind of birthed at Cisco Live 2 months ago with the announcement of our smart switching platform. And today we have a product manager joining us directly from the switching team to get into a deep dive to talk about smart switching for the AI era. And before we get started, I just want to call out happy birthday, Cisco. What a great week it's been. We actually celebrated our 40th anniversary of Cisco Systems this week. So if y'all have been with Cisco since the early days of the first routers, thank you for your loyalty, to the platform, to the product. It's been quite a journey. And what I think is really cool is, from that first generation of let's connect two computers on a LAN to let's connect a few devices across, the city, to where we are today with AI intelligence imbued directly into the platform. Wow, it's been quite a journey the last half a century. So again, happy birthday, Cisco. Check out the newsroom release. It's a really great walk down memory lane for all you people that have been in the networking space for some time. Now, today's event, again, we're going to focus on smart switching. I'm your host, Jeff Gelino. I'm based out of Washington, D.C., and I'm a solutions engineer for the Cisco networking team. Our expert that we've brought on board today is Steven Johnson. Steven Johnson is with our Cisco switching product management team and is very close to the 9350 and the 9600 hardware launches. We're really excited to have him with us. And then we also have from our partner WWT, Nathan Nielsen. Nathan is a double CCIE in route switch and security, and is going to be talking about how we can look at transforming our environments through our next refresh cycle and some best practices in doing that. So we have, again, an all-star cast here of experts ready to present. If any questions do come up, again, please use the Q&A so we can get to them. And with that, Steve, I'm going to hand this off to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Do appreciate that. Don't know how many times I've been called an expert, but I will take it. Hopefully all of you can now see my screen there. So yeah, I am Steven Johnson. I'm Senior Product Manager for the Cisco Switching Business Unit. And thank you once again for all of your time here today. I know your time is precious, so really appreciate you joining us here this afternoon. I do have the pleasure today of introducing to you our next generation of smart switches for the AI-powered campus. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So as we look out into the industry landscape, it's actually changing in quite a rapid pace. We have a huge influx in the number of AI agents and AI applications that are appearing on our networks. We are in the AI age. And that is showing up in a number of new ways. We have a lot of new traffic patterns on our networks. AI agents don't talk to each other the way that traditional network devices do. And that means our switches need to adapt. AI agents tend to need to have very low latency because they are making decisions in real time, right? So our switches need to have super low latency. Also, because AI agents are talking to each other, they're talking to each other in bursty traffic patterns. So our switches need to have super high buffer capacity. So they need to have low latency, but also high buffer capacity. So we need to have new switches that have this both components to them. Also, we're on the precipice of the quantum computing age. That brings many new benefits to society, but also potential new threats. Quantum computers have the potential to impact the way that we protect both data in transit, but also data at rest. So we need to have switches that now protect against these quantum computing threats. Also, of course, we have the new age of Wi-Fi 7. So we have an explosion of new endpoints coming onto our networks. As such, we need the switching infrastructure that can connect, power, and secure those new devices. So, as we get ready for the new AI-ready secure campus, we have three main strategy pillars that we need to focus on: operational simplicity, scalable devices, and security that is infused into our network. And we're going to take a look at each of these in turn, starting with operational simplicity. So Cisco's been on a long journey to unify our platforms, starting with our Cisco hardware. I'm happy to say with the introduction of our C9350 and our 9610 platforms, we've finally reached the point where we have a truly unified hardware. What I mean by that is from day one with this hardware, this is a platform. These are platforms that no longer have separate SKUs to connect to the cloud or be on-prem. It's a single SKU that allows you to connect to both without, it's a single SKU that allows you to connect to both. Again, right now we have Cisco hardware and Meraki hardware, and that no longer is going to be the case with the 9350 and 9610. It's one hardware. If you want to connect to the cloud, you want to connect to Catalyst Center, it is a single SKU to do both of that. Same thing with licensing. No more Meraki licensing versus DNA licensing. It's a single license that allows you to access both platforms. And with our management platform, again, we're trying to unify that as well. And I'm going to talk to you more about that as we go through here in a second. We've come a long way with our management platforms. Over 32 million devices are now connected to our management platforms, including over 6 million switches. Over 80% of all internet traffic passes through a Cisco infrastructure. And now we're making it even simpler how you choose to experience our platforms. Of course, we have our Cisco on-prem device, Catalyst Center. For those who want to experience a cloud, pure SaaS experience, we have the Meraki dashboard. And most recently, for those folks who want to experience the simplicity of cloud, but still want to have access to CLI, we've opened up that possibility as well. Now customers who want to have local device configuration with Meraki dashboard and CLI can do that, all while having one device, one license, one operating system, all iOS XE, just multiple ways to manage. And again, we are unifying this overall user experience. What you see on my screen here is a picture of the Meraki dashboard. Now, those of you who have been longtime Meraki customers may see that this looks a little different, right? For a long time, the Meraki dashboard was green. What you see on my screen here is blue, right? Now, that's not the only change that you have here, not just the color scheme, but also the menus on the left-hand side of your screen, the way the dashboard shows up in the graphics there, the actual workflows that you would go through. For instance, if you go through the AIRRM experience workflow, it would be the same thing in Meraki as you would have in Catalyst Center. The product management teams, the engineering teams, the sales teams have all been combined in Cisco so that the overall strategy and where we're heading with both platforms is aligned. Right? We want the learning curve if a customer is using Catalyst Center or if a customer is using the dashboard, the learning curve should be very minimal if they go from one product to the other. We're trying to make the overall user experience be seamless for our customers. As far as unlocking additional device support, for a long time we've had, or for the last 2 years, we've had the 9300 available for full management in the Meraki dashboard. More recently, we've enabled the 9200L for full management support in the Meraki dashboard. Starting at the end of this month with the availability of 17.18.1, we are unleashing a whole lot more platforms in the Meraki dashboard for full management mode. We'll be making available the 9200CX, which is our small compact switch with 8 and 12 ports, the full-size 9200, the 9300LM, which is our shallow depth switch, and for the first time ever, our core platform, the 9500. Okay, that's not where we're stopping. We also have on the roadmap tentatively planned for the first half of calendar year 26 are modular platforms, so platforms like the 9400 and 9600, as well as for the first time ever, we're trying to extend our secure connectivity to the rugged outdoor networks with the IE 3500. Okay, all these platforms are again coming to full management capability in the Meraki dashboard. So again, if you've not looked at the Meraki dashboard for full management experience before because you haven't had full platform support, might be a time to take another look at looking at the Meraki dashboard. Some other things we're bringing into the Meraki dashboard are more capabilities themselves. Again, starting with 17.18.1, which is again coming at the end of this month, end of July, we are bringing some advanced capabilities around high availability and advanced routing. Things like BGP, VRF, in-service software upgrade, stack-wise virtual, routed ports. All these features have been available to our on-premise customers for a very, very long time. Now they're actually coming to our cloud customers as well. In the future, we're also bringing things like Campus Cloud Fabric. We previewed this back in June at our Cisco live event. We tentatively have this planned for a beta in the later half of this calendar year with hopeful general availability sometime in the first half of next calendar year. This will be a BGP EVPN cloud-based fabric. So again, customers on-prem have had the availability of an SDA list-based fabric as well as BGP EVPN-based fabric for many, many years. We're now bringing that kind of concept into the cloud. But we're not only innovating just in the cloud, we're also, of course, innovating on-prem as well. We're trying to make it easier for our on-prem customers to simplify their troubleshooting. One of the ways we're doing that is for customers who are both Catalyst Center customers as well as ThousandEyes customers. We're trying to more tightly align that integration. One of the things we're doing in our next release of Catalyst Center, which is our 3.1 release, is we're giving the ability of Catalyst Center customers to create ThousandEyes tests, modify ThousandEyes tests, delete tests, and run those tests all from Catalyst Center itself. So we actually don't have to go into ThousandEyes to do any of those actions. In a future release, not 3.1, but a future release after that, we're also going to bring in the troubleshooting aspect of ThousandEyes in the Catalyst Center with the overall intention in the future that you can do all the things you want to do in ThousandEyes in Catalyst Center itself. So it's really a single pane of glass experience. Okay. So other things that we are doing on-prem, for those customers out there that have multiple Catalyst Centers, Catalyst Center clusters, we recently, or in our next release of Catalyst Center, we are bringing the concept of a Catalyst Center Global Manager. Kind of think of this as the manager of managers. This brings the ability again to bring multiple Catalyst Centers under one single pane of glass. Also, for those customers who need more granular role-based access control permissions, we're bringing that availability to set role-based access by site scope. And lastly, for those customers who need to set more custom compliance rules, that is also coming in the next release of Catalyst Center as well. All right, so now let's turn and take a look at the actual devices themselves. So for those customers that have today's 9K platforms, Catalyst 9K platforms, what has made them the most successful devices in the industry for the last 7 years are these three building blocks. The fact that we have custom programmable ASICs, x86 CPUs, and the industry's most open programmable IOS XE. In each of these three areas, for our next generation platforms, we have made significant improvements across the board. And from the ASIC standpoint, we have upgraded our ASICs to the next generation Silicon One ASICs. These are actually the second generation Silicon One ASICs. They are more programmable, AI ready, and they're actually super power efficient. If you haven't heard about Silicon One ASICs in the past, basically they take the best of switching silicon and the best of routing silicon and combine it into one chip. And again, on top of all that, top of all the massive scale that you get out of this silicon, is super power efficient. So you're actually getting better power efficiency than you had in previous generation platforms. From an x86 processor standpoint, again, we had x86 processors in our previous generation platforms, but we've actually moved to the next generation x86 processors. We've also increased the memory and made the memory faster as well. So now we can do advanced application hosting. We can host AI agents, which we did a demonstration of that at our last Cisco Live event. And of course, we can still host Thousand Eyes. From an iOS XE standpoint, we made several upgrades. We made it post-quantum cryptography resistant. I'll talk more about that in a bit. We enhanced stacking, and we introduced something called Cisco Live Protect, which again, I will talk more about here in just a few minutes. And of course, on top of all this, we wanted to make sure that we built the entire platform on a foundation of sustainability. And one of the things I will talk more about is this new concept of an energy management dashboard, which allows you to actually see the cost of what your energy draw is of these platforms. So just quickly looking at the portfolio of the switching BU, you can see on the left-hand side all of your legacy platforms, things that you guys probably know very well, like 3850, the 6500, 6800, all our friends that have been around for a long, long time. Unfortunately, this time to say goodbye to those friends. A lot of those platforms are end of sale and in fact, end of life. 3850 and the 6800, in fact, reached their last day of support this October, this October. They've all been replaced, of course, by the current generation platforms in the middle of your screen there, the Catalyst 9Ks. Hopefully, most of you guys are familiar with those platforms and have those in your networks today. What we just introduced and what I'm about to talk about, of course, is the switches we just launched at Cisco Live, which are the Cisco C9350 and the C9610. Now, even though we did introduce those new platforms, which I'm about to show you, I do want to emphasize this. There are no plans to end of sale or end of life any Catalyst 9000 switches. Okay, so just to go back to that screen I just showed, any of those platforms in the middle of your screen in green there, there's no plan to end of sale any of those platforms. Okay. So one of the new features that we are most excited about on our next generation platforms is this new out-of-box unified experience. What this is, essentially, if you buy a 9350 and you bring it home, you turn it on, it actually is going to call home to both management platforms, Catalyst Center and Meraki Cloud at the same time. It's going to establish tunnels to both of them at the same time. You're going to claim that device in whichever management platform that you choose to manage it in. And then it's going to drop the tunnel to whatever platform that you didn't choose. And then off you go. You're going to manage it and do your all device configurations and day one operations from there. All right. So the advantage of this, again, is going back to that unified hardware star that I talked about at the beginning. No longer do we need to have a separate SKU like we do dash M's today for like the 9300. We have the dash M's today because those call home to Meraki dashboard versus the non-dash M's call home to Catalyst Center. That no longer is the case with 9350. We used to have one SKU calls home to both, establishes tunnels to both. You claim it, whatever dashboard you want to, or whichever platform you want to manage it in, whichever one you don't want to manage it in, and it'll drop that tunnel and off you go. All right. So here's a Catalyst, the Cisco C9350 as a front and back view. On the bottom picture there, one thing that you might notice that is different from our today's platforms is the fact that we have 3 fans and 3 power supplies on this platform. A couple of new capabilities with the 3 power supplies on this platform. One thing the 3 power supplies allows us to do is provide 90 watts of power across all 48 ports. So if you have a smart building use case, we needed 90 watts of power across all 48 ports. The 3 power supplies allows us to do that. It's something that we cannot do today with the current generation 9300s. Also, it does provide new power redundancy capabilities that are not available on today's platforms. With 3 power supplies, we can do N+1 redundancy. So if you have, we have the ability now to do 2 power supplies carrying the load of the switch as well as the endpoints with PoE. The 3rd power supply in like a cold standby scenario. If one of those power supplies that is being used fails, the power supply that's in cold standby will pick up the load. Okay. We have mgig options on this platform. Mgig has also been updated. Mgig now supports 10 meg to 10 gig on these platforms. Again, that is new. If you recall, in today's current 9300 platforms, Ngig is 100 meg to 10 gig. This platform I'm showing on my screen, again, is 10 meg to 100 gig. So if you have any of those super old connections that still need 10 meg, this platform will support those connections. From a stacking capability, we're going to be supporting 12 members instead of 8, so that's an increase. And now we have a capability to support 1.6 terabits of overall stacking capacity. We made several resiliency upgrades as well. We enhanced XFSU. For those of you who have not heard that acronym, that stands for Extended Fast Software Upgrade. Extended Fast Software Upgrade allows you to upgrade your 9350, either one member or a stack of 9350s in less than 5 seconds. Right? So that is a big improvement from a standard upgrade process, which can take anywhere from 5 to 13 minutes, depending on if you're upgrading a single member or a stack. So again, if you haven't used this feature, I highly recommend checking out XFSU. It'll make a significant improvement in your overall lives, going from 5 minutes down to less than 5 seconds of upgrade time. We enhanced stack power. The stack power cables now can carry over 2,000 watts across them. Allows you to put 4 switches in it allows you to have 4 switches sharing power in a stack power stack. We also made enhancements to the actual stacking capabilities, which I'm going to show you in a separate slide here in just a second. I told you that we integrated security into these platforms as well. We made them quantum resistant. We introduced something called Cisco Live Protect. We made them Hypershield ready, all of which I'm going to go into more detail as well in just a minute here. So I talked about that new stacking architecture. Here's a picture of what that looks like. So not only did we increase the number of members that we can stack up to 12 and increase the stacking capacity to 1.6 terabytes, but we also made it a user-friendly stacking design. What I mean by that is because we moved to a standards Ethernet-based stacking protocol, which is SPF with VXLAN. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the old stacking architecture. If you remember, we had a ring-based stacking architecture, which meant that you always had to connect the first switch and the last switch. Now, if you only had a 2 or 3 or 4 member stack, it wasn't such a big deal. The bigger the stack got, the more of a pain in the butt that got to be to stretch that cable from the first switch to the last switch, right? Well, with the new standards Ethernet-based stacking architecture, you no longer have to do that long stretch. As long as all the switches are connected, that's all you need to do. So in the middle of your screen there, on the right-hand side of your screen, those 2 stacking configurations are now options of different ways you can stack. There's just 2 options. Again, as long as they're all connected, you can do any connection topology you want. It's a point-to-point architecture. And one of the big other advantages of this new stacking architecture is if there's a failure in any one of the cables, in the old stacking architecture, if you had a failure in any one of the cables, you lost half the stacking bandwidth of the entire stack. In the new stacking architecture, if you have a failure in any one of the cables, you do lose half the stacking, you lose half the bandwidth between those 2 connections, but the rest of the stack is unaffected. Right? So that is a big plus of this new stacking architecture that we have. I told you that we wanted to build this platform on a foundation of sustainability. We did that in a number of ways. These platforms are built for smart building use cases. I told you that, again, we have 3 power supplies that allow us to provide 90 watts of power across all 48 ports. With a 12-member stack, that does provide up to 576 ports of 90 watts of power. It's a whole lot of power, as you might imagine. We also made several different software improvements as well. We do have auto off power supplies. So if power supplies are not being utilized for switch load or PoE load, they can be auto shut off to save power. We have auto off LEDs. We have the ability to also turn off or auto off fiber ports. So again, if there's no optic plugged into a port, it's probably not being used, and we can actually turn power off to those fiber ports as well. 2 other new capabilities that we brought into these platforms, which were not there before: the ability to put these platforms in deep sleep and hibernation mode. So if you have office buildings, administration buildings where people are not coming in overnight, why not put them into deep sleep or hibernation mode? It'll reduce the power of these platforms up to 40%. 40% on platforms over 5-10 years. It makes a significant difference in your power consumption and, of course, in your wallet. We've had the PoE dashboard in Catalyst Center for many years. That PoE dashboard is also coming to the Meraki dashboard as well. And now, coming to both the Meraki dashboard and Catalyst Center is this new concept of the energy management dashboard, which goes way beyond just PoE assurance. Again, this is the idea of how much energy draw is coming from your switches, your routers, your APs, and your PoE endpoints, and taking that energy draw and converting it into the actual cost in dollar and cents terms, and also converting it into cost in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. You can actually see that cost and actually print reports based off that cost. Last thing I mentioned on this slide is we do have 2 platforms in the 9350 series that are now Energy Star certified. The 48HX and the 48U are Energy Star certified, excuse me. Here's just a quick look at the models that we did introduce at Cisco Live. We have 2 MGig models and 6 1Gig models. The network modules are off to the right and 3 power supplies. Now, I will say that this is the models we introduced at Cisco Live, but there will be a whole lot more coming over the next year or so. As you can think about the current 9300 lineup that we have today, there's something on the order of 35 or so models. We won't have quite as many 9350 models when it's all said and done, but we will have probably about 2/3 that number. Now, like I said, we also introduced the 9610 at Cisco Live. This is our next generation modular core switch. You can think of it as the big brother or big sister to the 9606. So this is a 10-slot chassis. It also has 2 new supervisors, Supervisor 3 and Supervisor 3 XL. Of the 10 slots, 8 of them are dedicated to line cards and 2 are dedicated to supervisors. One of the great aspects of the 9610 is that the current line cards that we have for the 9606 are actually backward compatible to the 9610, which is great. The one note about that is that because of the size of this chassis and the size of the actual slots in the chassis, there is an adapter that you will need to get the line cards from the 9606 to actually fit into the line card slots of the 9610. So yes, they're backward compatible, but there is an adapter that you will need to get those line cards to actually fit in these chassis slots. Okay. Now the 9610 also did come up with its own line cards. There's a new 100 gig line card, a new 50 gig line card that are specific to 9610, and those will not require its own adapter. So last topic I will talk about today is security. Very important topic. We talk about security from a comprehensive approach. We want to talk about it from securing the switch, securing network connectivity, and securing our users, clients, and applications. When we look at it from securing the switch, we want to look at it from a couple of different ways. We want to make sure that the hardware itself is authentic Cisco hardware. We want to make sure the operating is authentic Cisco iOS XE. We want to make sure that boot process, that when it boots up, is authentic as well. Additionally, when we have security vulnerabilities, unfortunately all software does, we want to make sure that we can reduce that time that you are vulnerable as much as possible. So let's look at these one at a time here. I mentioned off the top that we are on the precipice of the quantum computer age, and data, and that brings benefits, but also threats. Quantum computers have the ability to crack all these algorithms that protect the way that we, or crack all these algorithms that protect the way that we crack all these algorithms that protect our data transit, data at rest. So what we have done is we have created these new chips on our hardware that make them post-quantum cryptography resistant. Those chips are on 9350 and the 9610. We have also made our boot systems compliant for PQC. Now, things that are still on the roadmap are PQC compliant signed iOS XE. That is something we are still working on. That is probably another 6 to 8 months off. And we're also working with the industry on next generation protocols for PQC compliant MACsec and IPsec. Now, that is not something that is strictly dependent on Cisco ourselves. We are, again, working with industry on protocols for MACsec and IPsec, with our industry peers. So once everybody kind of agrees on what next generation MACsec and IPsec should look like from an industry standpoint, we will enable those. But again, from a hardware standpoint, our hardware is ready to accept those protocols. And so when those are available, we will implement those in our hardware, and we will be post-quantum resistant. Also talked about from a security perspective that we introduced this new thing called Cisco Live Protect, which is something that is going to be available not only in campus, but also something that was talked about in the data center at Cisco Live. What this is, essentially, is the ability for us to download security rules directly into the kernel of iOS XE to minimize the time that you are vulnerable to security threats, right? Traditionally, when we have security vulnerabilities, we need to, of course, identify those vulnerabilities. We need to develop a patch for those vulnerabilities. We need to test that patch. We need to get it out to you guys. Hopefully that's a hot patch, meaning you have to take a downtime. Sometimes it's a cold patch, meaning, of course, you do have to take downtime. That entire process takes weeks. Sometimes it can even take months. And that entire time, of course, you are vulnerable. What Cisco Live Protect allows us to do, again, is because we have this security agent called Tetragon sitting within the kernel of iOS XE, we can actually download rules into that security agent in Tetragon and provide a temporary patch while the official Cisco patch is being developed, which again minimizes your downtime, hopefully from weeks or months down to just days. That's the idea behind Cisco Live Protect. Now, again, this is not something that's going to be available at launch of the 9350 and the 9610. This is probably going to take us about 12 months to get to, but it is something we are actively working on and we're very excited about. And the last thing I'll mention before turning it over to Nathan is this idea of Hypershield. So Hypershield is something we announced back at Cisco Live Europe in February in the data center. It is also something that is coming to our campus platforms, specifically the 9350. So we announced at Cisco Live that our 9350s were Hypershield ready. What that means is because of our enhanced application hosting infrastructure that I talked about before with the enhancements that we did to our CPUs on the 9350 and an enhanced memory, we can actually host Hypershield and that application infrastructure on these platforms. Hypershield is a cloud-based firewall, so we can actually send certain traffic, high-risk traffic at the port level to this cloud-based firewall that is sitting within the switch itself. That's the concept of what this would be. Now, it wouldn't be sending all traffic, so it's a little bit of a different use case than we have in the data center. Data center is using DPUs and sending mass loads of traffic for things like DC interconnects and WAN edge use cases. This is not that, right? This is a campus use case where you're looking at maybe IoT traffic or guest traffic, something that's high value, high risk that you want to direct from a switch port into the firewall for a deeper inspection, deeper stateful inspection before sending it out to its end destination. This would probably be layer 4 at first, and then we're going to eventually try and get it up to a layer 7 inspection. And it would be directed from the CPU to the firewall via a VLAN, VRF, or potentially an SUT. That's how you'd be directing certain traffic flows. Okay. With that, that is the overview of the 9350 and the 9610.
Awesome. Stephen, thank you so much. Like, this is a huge launch for us here at Cisco, and I just there are two killer features that us as field engineers we're going to be forever grateful for. The first one, MGig ports supporting from 10 megs to 10 gigs. I can't tell you how many times I've run into that one IoT device that needs to be plugged in at 10 megs, and we have to get a whole different switch. So whatever you did in the ASICs there, hardware, thank you so much. Then the other killer feature, flexible stacking, not just ring architectures, but however you want to plug in the cables, we're going to figure it out. This is going to really just improve deployment times. And again, I just feel like product management was really listening to the field in some of our some of our grievances. So really exciting stuff. And let's not even get into PQC, AI, and all the other amazing innovations here. But we're really excited for this launch. And for anyone out there, that wants to learn more, reach out to your Cisco account team. We can bring in Steve for live one-on-ones if you want to go deeper. But thank you so much. This was a great session. I think this is going to be a very successful product launch.
You're welcome.
Awesome. And then now for the second half here, we have Nathan Nielsen. Nathan, are you out there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Well, the floor is yours now. And again, with all of these refreshes, you can't just unplug a switch and hop in a new one. We'd love it to be that easy, but sometimes we need some help. We need some smart hands. We need some staging. We need some labs. We need some help from our partner ecosystem. So what's WWT doing out there to help us out here?
Hey, Jeff, thanks a lot for the intro. And I just want to say thanks to everyone else for joining. I just echo what was said earlier. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it here with us. And just quick intro, Nathan Nielsen, I'm a principal solutions architect at Worldwide Technology. We are a global solutions integrator based out of St. Louis, Missouri, hence the backdrop behind me. We're considered Silicon Valley in St. Louis, so that's where that theme's from. And we have definitely been very deep in the weeds for extensive period of time on the process of migrating infrastructures and refreshing technology. So a few things that we do. This is part of our services portfolio here, and we kind of offer everything from consulting all the way down to strategic resourcing, which is where we can even staff aug for you and have people on site for extended periods of time while we're handling the very time consuming activities of racking and stacking, migrating services, that sort of thing. There's a ton of other things that we are involved in. The focus of today is more infrastructure modernization, which is the area within the organization that I sit within. And I'll tell you, I've been involved with this term infrastructure modernization for probably a decade now, and it is a completely different thing today from what it used to be, even just a couple of years ago. I mean, today, if you heard some of the new things in these platforms, I mean, it almost feels like 2017 again, where we're like starting over with something brand new. It's a brand new era. We saw the 9Ks come in, and we're like, wow, they're incredible. And now it's the next gen of 9Ks that are really kind of stepping into the future with the functions and features and functionality. And so one thing that we kind of like to focus on before we even start putting bombs and quotes and things like that together to start completely overhauling your environment to get it ready for the future. So we like to start with conversations because, like I said before, it used to be a matter of almost just, hey, this switch is coming into service, it's coming into life. What's the replacement? What is the same one? What's the one that's going to give me the PoE that I need? Which one is going to have the stacks that I need? That sort of thing. So we kind of consider that sort of the nucleus thing, and those things still matter. And whether uplink options are changing, PoE capabilities, like those are absolutely still things that you need to consider. In today's environment, we have a few other things though that we really want to like talk about and focus on before we just say, oh, that's the switch you want, just go plug it in and we'll move the cables over. So one of those things being zero trust, and that's not necessarily a feature or something that you turn on within your switches. We certainly heard about some of the additional capabilities for PQC coming down the line, and other stuff that has existed since 2017 that's getting adopted as far as segmentation and other sort of things. So that's something that we still consider that as part of our nucleus. Now you're seeing a lot of different types of things connecting into your network though than what used to be. So if you're at the point where you're hitting that refresh cycle, we're even in a unique scenario where, 2020 we had COVID and a lot of people left the office. Many people did, and now that there's kind of that return to office process going in, like the networks from 5 years ago they're not the same. Things have absolutely changed within 5 years. I think they've changed more in the last 2 years than they have in the last 20. Personal opinion, but there are a lot of other things that need to be taken into consideration. The things that are going to be connected to your network, the Wi-Fi first approach that we see, which means it doesn't mean that we don't need switches anymore. We absolutely need switches because our access points connect to the switches. But it does mean that as many of these endpoints, yes, there will be the 10 meg legacy devices hang around, and trust me, we went through that as well, Jeff. One of the workarounds we found, instead of having to get a whole nother switch, was the 8x10 uplink modules would go down to 10 meg. So we'd have to throw an uplink module in that does 10 gig interfaces just to get one 10 meg interface, and that was fantastic. The fact that 10 meg to 10 gig now, huge. So anyways, those are the kind of things you want to take into consideration. What type of stuff is connecting to your network now versus what it was 5 to 7 years ago? And if you are in one, I'll tell you, I work with tons of clients across all sorts of verticals. And one of the more common things that we hear is that whole wireless first approach. Wireless used to be a bit of a luxury and a nice to have, and now it's like an absolute requirement. Like if most of us, if we consider going into our businesses and our wireless is not functioning, there's a good possibility that we are not able to perform our job function. So with that move and with the move to Wi-Fi 7, we're also going to have a need for way more PoE, which I haven't heard of another device out there that could give us 90 watts across 48 ports. That's pretty insane if you think about that. Plus with redundant stack power as well to, help out if a stack member goes down, you've got redundancy there. So another thing, okay, sorry, I'm going to keep going on and on about how awesome these devices are if I don't move to the next slide. But another thing that's really taken center stage is the orchestration platforms and the capabilities that we have as far as contextual data, correlation of things that are happening on the network, but we're using things such as machine learning in the background to help make that stuff into meaningful data for us to process as humans a lot easier, looking at it in a dashboard. So these are things that are kind of front and center, right? So the switch that you are deciding on is absolutely important. But what we like to recommend is that we sit with our clients and we kind of have the discussion of what the bigger picture looks like, because we want to look from the outside and all of the other components. Like yes, these are amazing features, but are you planning to go one box at a time and log into each individual CLI and put the configurations in place? Or are we going to have some sort of a centralized management platform that standardizes these kind of configs and pushes them out at scale, that gives you your PoE dashboards and so forth? So a lot of things to take into consideration. So that is kind of where we start. And then again, our organization, we are able to everything from the very first idea to the actual delivery and consumer outcomes, where we are available every step of the way, regardless of the size and shape and magnitude of your infrastructure. We have these three things on the bottom here that are really special to us, that we help to get things off the ground and get them going at full scale. The first one being our Advanced Technology Center. I'm going to go into that. I promise I won't spend too much time, but I could talk all day on how amazing this component is. And we have our global supply chain, and then of course we have a tons of services. And that the first slide that I showed that kind of had our services portfolio, those are each of the individual departments within our organization that can provide you very specific and unique services according to your needs. But we also integrate as one WWT, to where we can we are there helping nonstop to make sure it's a seamless flow, seamless experience. So to start with our ATC, our Advanced Technology Center, these pictures here are actual pictures of the facility. There's a little bit of a time lapse going on there, but those are literally the inside of our ATC. And what this is it is a massive lab. The offerings that we have there, one thing is WWT research, and this is where our professionals, our subject matter experts, go deep into new technology and analyze it and put it through the ringer, and when we write articles and things like that on it to showcase, hey, this is something brand new according to what we read. This is how it works, and my experience was this is kind of how it turned out. And so this is something where when we're getting into these new platforms and new offerings, you can kind of vet those through our experiences if you're not able to have your hands on them yet. Another amazing thing is our labs and learning paths. These are hands-on, on-demand labs, many of those, but there's also learning paths where if you're not quite up to speed with BGP, and that's something that you want to hop into a learning lab and go through a track, these are all completely free and open to anybody who comes to our website, and I'll have a little bit of information on that at the end. So it's totally free, hands-on work, on-demand labs. And in fact, I just used one the other day for a introductory Terraform thing that I'm working on in a lab, and I was able to get going and run my first Terraform provider. It's great. The cyber range that we have, this is another one that deserves its whole entire presentation. It was actually featured at Cisco Live this year. So I would say if you didn't catch that at Cisco Live, I definitely would look up the on-demand sessions and take a look at our cyber range, because it is incredible, to say the least. Kind of a capture the flag style thing, but from even an AI security standpoint, and it's a big deal. I would highly recommend checking that out. Lab as a service. This is something where if all organizations, well, not all organizations would love to have a good lab. Not necessarily all of them have it. And in this case, if there is something where maybe you've got a whole brand new solution, this whole thing that you want to kind of vet and lab out, and you don't necessarily have the footprint for it, we can install it for you and give you remote connectivity into it as a service. So you can go and vet things out and make sure, okay, that works as I expect before it ever hits production, without having to invest in the infrastructure itself to build a lab and vet those solutions out. And then of course we have proof of concepts, and those range from all sorts of things. There is essentially no combination that we cannot build to provide a proof of concept. And how do we do that? Because this is a facility that has $1 billion worth of investment in it, and that is, none of this is production. Okay, more than 500 racks, more than 200 OEMs. And it is amazing to say the least. Like I said, I could go on and on about this. As far as the labs and the learning paths go, there's nearly 100 labs, close to 100 learning paths, and those are specifically on Cisco. And it's such a big deal that Cisco has even invested over $3 million of their own money into this lab as a strong partner to just continue moving the good stuff forward. So obviously those are some of the outcomes. I'm short on time already, so I'm going to skip forward. Another way that we can kind of bring this thing to life for you is our integration system. We have our integration centers. We have literally millions of square feet of supply chain footprint, and it's a lot more than supply chain, though. It's staging and integration. What that means is that we can receive your equipment, we can stage it with, there's several different levels. It's not like a can thing where, hey, if your stuff goes through our integration center, this is what it gets. But we can do everything from receiving your hardware and making sure that it gets shipped out to each individual site at the right time, instead of having, for you to deal with carriers. But we also have 3 tiers of engineers in there who can apply configurations for you. So when they arrive, they can be pre-configured. We have drop ship. If you see in some of those lower pictures where there's full rack set up, we have the ability to stage, deploy, configure, and put an entire rack together for you and drop ship it right at your location, where all you need to do is plug it in with power and uplinks, and you're up and running with the configuration that you provided for us. We do burn-ins, all that kind of stuff. So again, this is one I could spend the entire day on. It's incredible. And if your organization is large and needs to really pick up the pace on a refresh, this is a way that you can do it. And last but not least, we also have what we call our branch services. And this is another one where I'm still amazed when I look at these numbers. I don't work in this particular department within our company, but if you look at just some of these numbers, 95,000 site visits. Sorry, I didn't explain what it is. Branch services is an organization where we can just roll out things at scale, like massively at scale, right? And this is not the entire history of our department. This is an annual number right here, if you look at that. So 95,000 site visits in a year, that blows my mind. Seriously. 3.1 million endpoints touched, over 60 sites per day per customer. And it's just massively and this is for those organizations that have literally hundreds and thousands of sites. And if you were to kind of do the math, and we're doing like 4 or 5 of those a week, by the time you get done through your refresh cycle, it's already time to start over again, right? So this is something that we can just mass refresh at scale, and it's incredible to see that stuff happen. We have some like global financial customers where they just have tons of like bank branches and stuff, and we are just doing amazing things with those. So to kind of close it out, I do want to invite everybody to our platform, WWT.com. This is where you can find what we do. Again, the area that I'm focusing on today is infrastructure modernization. We're talking a little more on the campus side and switching refresh, but there is a plethora of things here that we can provide assistance on, the capabilities that we have. The learn from us, this is where you can go. So that's the next tab over if you hit the platform. This is where you can find the articles and blogs, case studies, things like that. But this is also where you get the labs and learning done. This is free, hands-on, on-demand labs. We even have just recently published a full SD Access and Catalyst Center lab that's totally on demand. The only requirement is that you register with your company email, and you've got access to all that stuff. If you want to contact us, there's ways to get to us through your Cisco contacts, or if you have a WWT account team already. If not, you can always go to the contact us page here, right on the platform, and somebody would certainly be reaching out to you to see how we can help make your lives a little bit easier. With that, I'm going to say thank you. Certainly appreciate your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff.
Awesome, Nathan. Thank you. I loved your antidote about using 10 gig uplink modules for a 10 meg connection.
Yeah.
I mean, engineers will find a way to make it work, and I just love that, and like the engineering spirit that kind of goes through all Cisco engineers. Also, I really loved how you said that in order to do a refresh at scale, we have to use tools like programmability and platforms. It is impossible to copy and paste configs over at the scale that these organizations that we all collaborate with work at. So you guys have an amazing practice. I've personally worked with the WW team on doing some transformations of clients I've worked with, and yeah, it really comes to life there. Thank you so much, Nathan. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then I'm going to steal the ball away here because, again, this is a monthly demand gen series. So first off, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Nathan, for all of your contributions this month. Couldn't do this without our technical experts. And Stephen, you're called an expert twice now in one call. Again, this is a monthly series. And so next month, we have more in the pipeline. And we actually have a really exciting another product launch for next month with our stadium and high density 9179 F access point. And we are bringing in one of our CX distinguished engineers, Matt Schwartz, to present. And so it's going to be an awesome session filled with real world experience, filled with design best practices for large public venues and any sort of high density wireless. If you're a Wi-Fi person, if you have your 9350 in and you're looking for a device to plug into it, join this session, get some Wi-Fi 7 hardware, and join us next month. There is a QR code. This actually will link you to the entire Cisco Demand Gen series. And so you can opt into each event and join us on a monthly basis. And so we can keep mastering networking together. And that is going to be the end of today's session. So one last thank you to our presenters, Stephen and Nathan, and thank you to all of our attendees out there. We're doing this for y'all. Please do provide feedback on the event, and please do join us next month as we get into high density wireless design. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing y'all next month. Cheers, everyone.